Kia ora everybody, welcome to this episode of the Stag Roar. And this is a episode which I thought I'd actually be doing earlier, but we're finally getting it here. But I also wondered if I'd ever actually do this episode, because it's quite nerve-wracking being on your own and trying to coherently share your thoughts. I suppose that's what my guests feel when I'm sitting down throwing questions at them. For those that are watching us, we've got the antlers back in the background, a nod to the original episodes of the Stag Roar, where we're back in our old house in Cambridge. I think we were interviewing Liam McElwee. It was August, last few weeks of the rugby season, and we let rip on the Stag Roar, and now we're up to episode 35, which is pretty fitting, really. Those that know me know that I'm slightly OCD, and I couldn't really put a timestamp on the Stag Roar for one of these episodes where it's just me. Probably the episode had to be one that was divisible by 5, so I thought I was going to be doing this around episode 20 and then 25 and then 30, and now with all the goings on, finally found the time to sit down and talk myself, I guess. And episode 35 is going to be the timestamp where we break up what has been such amazing guests. It's really been super awesome being able to interview such amazing people and bringing you the stories of so many amazing people. The last few weeks have been pretty hectic. We've moved up to Alex's parents' house. I'm sitting in their office. Those aren't my books in behind. They're Alex's dad's collection of mostly non-fiction, which is pretty cool. Something I'll get to one day, but at the moment I'm pretty obsessed with reading the experiences of many different people out there, and it's been super cool. Of course, we've brought a baby into the world, and that's what I've been doing since I got home at 5:30. It's now 9:30, and I've been with Billy the last few hours, keeping her calm. We put her down a couple of times. Then I managed to feed her, which is pretty cool. This is the third time we've been able to feed her, 2 nights in a row. So that's pretty exciting. And then been bathing her and changing her and interacting with her. It's pretty amazing to see her start to come to life. She's had some bad colic the last few weeks, so you never would have known that burping and farting could cause a small human so much trouble. But yeah, learned a lot, we've tried a lot, and hopefully we're on the right track now. We managed to get an 8 hours sleep last night, so fingers crossed we can do that again tonight. Of course, the Stag Roar always starts with asking people what they did on the weekend, and for me, the weekend it was my last Saturday working for a very long time. Today, in fact, was my last day working for Patterson Byrne, where I'm going in Australia and Ballina and Casino. I'm not going to be doing weekends, which is going to be really awesome. So we're based in Ballina, over the road from the beach, which is Ballina's 30 minutes south of Byron Bay. And I'm really excited about, one, living over the beach and being able to get up in the morning, go down on the sand, maybe take a dip, do some exercise and watch the sun come up, and have the weekends free. Probably will spend it most of the time up in Byron Bay and check out the farmers market and the goings on. But yeah, the Saturday morning had work, and then Saturday afternoon was a bit of a miserable day, and I pretty much looked after Billy all Saturday afternoon while gave Alex a break. Then Sunday, of course, was Mother's Day here, and it was super special. We had my parents come up, who are staying in Carapiro at the moment with Dad coaching rowing, and Alex's grandma was here, and we had a beautiful southern roast lamb, so that was absolutely awesome. A touch of home, a taste of home, and yeah, a great day. Mum and Dad got to have some photos with Billy, which they were pretty stoked about, so it was really cool to share Mother's Day with family, which is pretty special and something I haven't done for a long time, not since probably when I was back in high school. Been away from home now for 11 years, and yeah, probably the first Mother's Day I've had with Mum, so that was pretty awesome. and it was just a great day. And yeah, Billy had a tiring Sunday night, so Monday was a bit interesting. Of course, our next question we always pose to people is, who are they today? Because, of course, everybody's a work in progress. Everybody's not who they were yesterday, and it's good to delve into who they are right now, what's on their mind. And for me, I'm currently between jobs, which is a bit of a strange feeling. The last time I was between jobs, I finished my job in Christchurch, played the development club final in Christchurch on the Saturday, which we won. We got up over Lincoln. I scored a try even. It was pretty good. Then got a yellow card. Myself and the oversigned flanker had a bit of a tussle all day, and he gave me a jab, and I sort of brought him close in and gave him a wee head nod, and got spotted by the touch judge. So I was in the bin for 10 minutes, but we won that, and of course celebrations followed. Sunday was all about recovering and getting the car loaded, and then we were off on the Monday, drove as far as Wellington. The next day drove to Cambridge, and then I started work the following day, so it was a bit whirlwind. And of course before that I was at uni, and so second time between jobs, and it's a pretty strange feeling. It's been really good. I've grown so much over the last 2.5 years. I left Specsavers looking to develop who I am in optometry practice, and one of the things that I really wanted to chase was behavioural optometry, and working with Patterson Byrne, I've been able to grow that super awesome. We've developed a really cool protocol for screening and identifying learning difficulties and visual difficulties in children. We've developed a really cool theory about why kids can't see up close, and then that's given me a big wow moment for why people who have concussions all of a sudden can't see up close, and it's to do with something that I'm hugely passionate about, and something I learned about in my Bachelor of Science in anatomy and in neuroanatomy, and that's the autonomic nervous system. And it's cool how life all ties together, because in my work with Dr. Steve Joe, one of the things that I was suffering from was adrenal fatigue. And of course that meant my sympathetic nervous system was jacked up. That's why I was beginning to lose my puff when I was doing exercise. My sympathetic nervous system would take over and create a fight or flight response. I'd get a big dump of cortisol, and of course I'd become glycolytic and out of breath too fast. So that's what's going on when somebody has a concussion. Their sympathetic nervous system gets jacked. Sympathetic nervous system, and when it comes to your eyes, is wanting you to be able to see in the distance, see the threats, and so it's not concerned with chilling out and relaxing and reading a book. You could argue that the likes of our computer screens, which are great, it means I could do this podcast, but they're also perking us up. The blue light from the screens is maybe activating our sympathetic nervous system as well. This might be why so many kids have anxiety these days. They're glued to their phone, and again, that blue light's giving them a boost in their sympathetic nervous system, so they can never calm down. They feel like they're always under threat. And I'm saying, these kids that can't read, we do some deep breathing, and all of a sudden they're able to read again. So that was really, really awesome part of working with Patterson Byrne. The other thing that is becoming my sort of itch, and is part of the reason why I decided to do this podcast, and it comes from, at uni I lost my grandfather to type 2 diabetes, and at the time I probably didn't grieve around it. I think I cried once or twice. I was able to stand up at his funeral and speak and hold it together. At his wake, we sort of had a few drinks as a family and got around each other. Being a small knit family, that was pretty easy. But it was one of those things that, because he was ill, I felt was pretty inevitable. And when I missed a call from my dad early in the morning, and he said that he wanted to call me back, I sort of figured that that's what had happened, and I didn't really know how much that had affected me. And it's not until every single day that I see people with type 2 diabetes, see people with ill health, see their quality of life deteriorating, that it really drives a passion in me. And that's why in this podcast I interview so many people about health and about low carbohydrate diets, because the evidence is out there that it's working. The people that I talk about often is Verta Health, and they've got a success rate of 93%, I think it is, of reversing type 2 diabetes. In a lot of those cases, that's getting people off insulin in a condition that's about insulin resistance, not enough insulin, as I talked about in my pitch culture talk. They're getting, half of the people off their medications down to just metformin or nothing, which is cool. Basically reversing this condition, which most people are told is a chronic and irreversible, basically death sentence. So to be able to sit in practice and one by one tell people, hey, there is an answer if you just take these simple steps, and it's as simple as reducing carbohydrates. It's as simple as having green leafy vegetables every day to detox the liver, and it's as simple as doing some movement every day. And if you really want to get after it, doing some intermittent fasting, as we spoke about with Megan Ramos from the Intensive Dietary Management. It's cool to be able to talk to someone like that reverses type 2 diabetes. It's cool to be able to talk to somebody like Ben Warren in New Zealand that reverses type 2 diabetes. It's cool to be able to talk to Karen Zinn, Grant Schofield, Cliff Harvey, who are reversing type 2 diabetes in New Zealand. And it's really awesome to share that message with us, our generation, which has just been bombarded with all these conflicting health messages, to say, here's some new age science, here's some facts, here's something to consider, here's what you see in society right now. Don't become one of those statistics. What you do right now in your younger years will determine who you become later in life. Do you want to be like these amazing 94-year-old patients that I have, like the dude that gave me that dentist diet book? He's 94. He'd worked for the UN, and now he just biohacks. He has a forest, 40 acres of forest of native bush in the Coromandel, and he spends every day out, servicing the forest, cutting trees, weeding, clearing away things, clearing traps for pests. Do you want to be that, 94? Or do you want to be the 62-year-old diabetic on 15 medications, feet are starting to hurt, all your limbs are swollen, you got no energy? Is that what you want to be? And so that's kind of what I would love for everybody to take on board, is that what you're doing now determines the life that you live. What you're digesting determines how you think. Who you surround yourself with, which is what so many people on this podcast have talked about, is who you become. And that's basically who I am. Is I'm passionate about health. I'm passionate about improving people's lives. That's my why, and that's why I worked for Patterson Byrne, because that's their why. Their why is improving people's lives. And this is just another way that I manifest that passion, by sharing amazing stories of other people that are out there doing it. Before this podcast, I put on Facebook, did anybody have any questions? It's quite funny when you're doing this podcast, you see the numbers going up, and it's super amazing to see both on YouTube and on Anchor, the listens and the views, and to start to see that consistently grow. I think most of our listens are all over 80 now. We've got plenty in the hundreds. We've got Sean Baker and Keegan Smith up there in the mid 200s. Keegan's still in the lead. He's doing amazing. And what an amazing podcast that was. And then on YouTube, Sean's, I think, last time I checked, was over 850. Megan Ramos was over 500. The podcast that I did with Alex, that's up in the high 200s. There's a couple of others cracking on 200, plenty in the hundreds. And so it's just super cool seeing people digest this information. And it was interesting to see on Facebook who'd like to chime in. And it was cool to see Joseph Morris, who I did Ryla with when I first moved to the Waikato. Now, Ryla is the Rotary Young Leaders Award. I was super lucky that one of the guys I connected with in the deer industry is part of Rotary in Cambridge, and despite being slightly too old, he managed to sponsor me to do this amazing course. And it was a really defining moment in my life, I think. And the following year, Alex went on it as well. And Joseph Morris, he asked me who my inspirations are. And there's probably three major ones at the moment. And that's Tim Ferriss. I knew about 4-Hour Work Week for a long time. My older brother, had read that book. It's one I still haven't read. I plan on doing it one day, but I sort of not so sure how much that information applies to me at this point in my life. And also I'm aware that a lot of the topics in that book may be outdated. But in saying that, Tools of Titans is probably the greatest book that I've read ever. And reading that kind of confirmed how accessible it was to do a podcast for myself. The next person is Joe Rogan. I love his podcast. It goes for 3 hours, and the guests and the conversations he has on there are super awesome. The other person that's a huge inspiration for me, and is the real reason why I started the podcast, is Dan Doty from the Everyman podcast. Now, Dan is, I think he's in his mid to late 30s. He has a young boy, and he runs a men's group in Bozeman, Montana. Well, he's now moved to Florida, so I don't know what he'd be doing there. I'm sure we have another men's group, but from there he has spawned this business called Everyman, and it's about men reclaiming masculinity, and not in a toxic way, about men being more self-aware, about men being more in touch with male emotions, not substituting female emotions onto men, and feeling guilty and feeling vulnerable about, that feminine side of things, actually owning emotion, owning anger, owning fear, owning grit, owning that determination, owning that bloody-mindedness that a lot of males have, owning that testosterone-fueled need to get out there and bond with men, to play contact sports, crazy things like that, get out in the wilderness. And that's part of what they do is they have these wilderness expeditions, and it's on the bucket list to do one day. I'm also trying to jack up to talk to either Dan or one of the crew at Everyman, because especially now being a father, it's super important to me to be a good role model. It's super important for me to forgive myself for the sort of idiot I was from, I don't know, mid-high school all through university. And it's super important to acknowledge that this life is the only one I've got, and I can wallow and be ashamed of who I am, or I can put my best foot forward and follow my why, which I developed after finishing uni, and improve people's lives. And so those are three real big inspirations for me. His next question was my first thought when I wake up in the morning. Now, I follow a little bit of thinking of Jocko Willink. And if you haven't heard of Jocko Willink, he's an ex-Navy SEAL, I think, commander. He used to train SEAL teams, and now he runs sort of business interaction and of a company called Extreme Ownership. And he gets up at 4:30 every day. He's got a couple of sayings like "get some" is one of them. And so what he does is he gets his exercise gear out the night before. He has a home gym, and when he's up at 4:30, he doesn't think about it. He just puts on his gear, goes out to his home gym, and trains. And so I took a little bit of that on board. I'm a little less single-minded about things, and I don't get up at 4:30. But what I always try and do is, when I wake up, assess how I feel, especially with having that adrenal fatigue. I assess how I feel. I assess, was that a good sleep? Sometimes that means compromising my morning and getting another 20 minutes sleep. But most of the time, it's been not wasting time and getting straight up. I find that getting straight up means that I can then do something about the feeling. And I have a routine loosely set up so that I know what to do when I get up. It's a bit hard at the moment because it's so dark in the morning, but when it was lighter, it was opening the curtains. It was getting that sunshine on me. It was kicking in my circadian rhythm as much as possible. At the moment, I'm either going into the bathroom and doing some movement. I've started doing some mountain climbers, doing 50 of those. Mostly after I saw from Tailored Health and Performance, they did a post about how it can strengthen your hip flexor muscles. And following my surgery, my recovery was really good, but I still feel there's a little bit of a weakness and I still get some tension in those muscles. And so that's my main motivation for doing mountain climbers. I think it's going to strengthen my pelvic floor and my abdominals and also those hip flexor muscles and greater support that hip socket and hopefully mean that it's stable and then my range of motion will improve heaps. I'll do some press ups, and if that's all I'm doing, which is still something, the heart rate gets up, the muscles get engorged with blood, then I'll jump straight in the shower and have it on cold. And it's powerful. I've talked about Wim Hof a lot on the podcast. Cold exposure is powerful. Even if you've had the worst sleep, cold exposure wakes you up. I spoke about in the last podcast with Eddie that Joe Rogan interviewed Matthew Walker about the importance of sleep and how a lack of sleep, a lack of getting those hours in, a lack of getting the deep sleep in is so detrimental to your health. We spoke about it with Adam Kavanagh as well, talking about shift work, how that shift work is so detrimental to your health. That's part of the reason why I try and energize my morning. So even if I haven't got in that sleep, I can do things to reduce my inflammation. One of those is cold exposure. A second one of those is doing exercise, increasing my brain-derived neurotrophic factor, increasing my blood flow, reducing free radicals and reactive oxygen species. Otherwise, my workout outside, I haven't got weights anymore when I'm up here. I'm doing like bear crawls, sprints, like little 10-meter efforts, just jumping and skipping, and chin-ups, press-ups, bodyweight squats. Yeah, just really moving, getting the blood flow. So I've had the shower. At the moment, I'm helping Alex, whether that's holding Billy for a moment so that she can do the same, or going into the kitchen and cooking, because during the week, fuel on board is important to me. I try and time restrict to eat, so I try and fit my food window into 8 hours. So whether that's eating at 7 and trying to be done by 7, or eating at 8 trying to be done by 8. It's been super awesome living here. Alex's parents get my food bag and we've been eating at a good time. So I've been able to do sort of 12-12 during the week. And yeah, breakfast is bacon and eggs, or as I'm sure you've seen, I've tried sardines and eggs. I try to get sauerkraut in, and I try to get that 1 cup of green leafy vegetables in straight away. From a macular degeneration standpoint, 1 cup of green leafy vegetables has been shown to prevent or reduce your risk, of macular degeneration. So getting that in. Rhonda Patrick goes on and on and on about broccoli sprouts and sulforaphane. Ben Warren goes on about cruciferous vegetables and sulforaphane. Dr. Libby goes on about cruciferous vegetables, sulforaphane, and the effects that they have on your liver and what that means for your body and its ability to function, what that means for your hormones. So yeah, those are the sort of things that I focus on. I've been having a broth, and particularly since coming up here, it's been the start of winter, I've been putting the turmeric and cumin in that I usually put in, oregano, which is supposed to be good for your gut, supposed to, I think, clear candida out of the gut. It's the protocol I went through with Dr. Steve, so I'm trying to keep that at bay. I have a probiotic that I take at night time that it's also supposed to keep candida at bay. I put parsley in my broth, and what I've been doing lately is putting cayenne pepper in my broth. And wow, we spoke about with both Cliff Harvey and Keegan Smith about Ayurvedic or Vedic, something like that. Ayurvedic, Vedic. I don't know, something to do with Indian medicine. And one of those things is spices. And cayenne pepper is one of those things that kicks your ass. And it's so bioavailable for vitamin C, especially in a broth, which is fatty. And so I'm hoping that prevents any colds or flus. But yeah, it also just really kicks you in the head. It's the same sort of deal as doing a cold shower or having sauna. It detoxifies you. It gets your sweat glands up. It tries to get your body rid of toxins, and you boost vitamin C. So that's what I've been doing with that. And I have a bulletproof coffee. So either using keto cream with coffee, black coffee, which I cook in a percolator. I heard on a podcast that using cold water, or really cold water, freezing cold water in the perk means that if the boiling time is longer, you get more caffeine. So I don't know if it's true, but I try that. And yeah, so either keto cream, or I'll make my own and use a teaspoon of coconut oil, a bit of butter, and some thick cream as well. On the weekends, I'll sometimes also add an egg with that and blend it up, make it really fatty. It's really good. On the weekends as well, I'm intermittent fasting till 2-3 o'clock. So, excuse me, if I go to work before on a Saturday, I would have had that in the morning, or if I don't go to work, then I'll save that for about midday, and that'll get me through to 2-3 o'clock. So yeah, basically my morning focus is how do I start this day perfectly. And Alex and I both try to make the bed as well, because that's a win. That's the easiest win. And even if you have a shit day and you get home and see your bed made, it's one of those things that psychologically just means that you've had a win. It's super awesome. There's a general that does a commencement speech, and that's one of the things he talks about is making a bed. And I think Jordan Peterson as well talks about making a bed, having a clean room. I think that's one of his 12 rules for life. That's another book that I need to get a hold of. So yeah, hope that helped, Joseph. Hope that answered your question. Back on where I met Joseph, which was Ryla. had two aspects. It was adventure education, so we did things like raft challenges. There were some people that were afraid of water that were there, so that pushed their limits. Building fire, that's where I learned a lot. I was focused on building a really awesome fire, but the task was to burn a string that was a meter up, and so we had this killer fire that would have lasted, I don't know, all night, all day, but it took too long to construct, and it also took a wee while to get big enough to burn the string. Meanwhile, the team that we're competing against chucked a whole bunch of bracken, lit it up on fire, it burst into flames and burned their string straight away. So yeah, it was a lesson learned in going about the task and what's the task about, what's the outcome, and then working back, reverse engineering that. So that was really cool for me. That was one of my biggest take homes. And also, if you've got skills, make sure that you're listening to everybody else's input. There were some people that in both the raft challenge and the fire challenge who were a little bit on the outer but had great ideas, and had we listened to them, we probably would have done even better on both of those. So that was also something that was highlighted to me. Always ask the quiet ones, ask better questions as well, and make sure you're listening and receptive to those inputs from other people, because often that's where the best ideas come from. So that was what I learned from Ryla. We did high ropes course, we did caving, abseiling, other team building exercises. We were out at this awesome farm near Waitomo, and we had this massive slingshot that we had to fire water balloons at the poor girl whose dad owns the farm. Fired at her about 60 metres away, and our team managed to hit them. Joseph was in my team. And it was really cool to... we also did in-classroom psychology lessons. Basically, we had an awesome person, Libby Gardner, who I've shared on the Waikato Facebook page, her talk that she did for Seed Waikato about finding your truth. Libby is a life coach, and she talked us through a lot of psychology concepts, and that was really awesome to get inside your head. I've done psychotherapy before, I did some psychotherapy after, but having a week of really deep diving into your psychology was super valuable. And like I said, that Ryla really defined probably who I am today, and some of the, I guess, skills that I learned on that camp have really pushed me forward going through the last year and a half. Also, out of that, I shared that moving to the Waikato had been really hard with somebody, or a couple of people actually, and that I was struggling to meet people. I shared how in Christchurch I'd gone to young professionals, but that the idea of getting drunk, on a Friday night or on the weekend with a bunch of people who already have their friend group that come together with their friend group and have a few drinks with their friend group and leave again. You exchange business cards and then you never create something concrete, was probably not the answer of what I was looking for. And that resonated with a couple of people. And from there we developed a Facebook page, and we asked more people, was that what they were into? And a whole bunch of people came along to some really casual morning breakfasts and evening get-togethers, and from there we developed a concept called Seed Waikato. As I said, that's where Libby Gardner was speaking at on that video. And unfortunately for me, I had to step away from Seed because I had so many other things on. But again tonight, there's been another Seed Waikato. They've kicked off for their a few events already this year, and Luke Taylor's talking there, Dr. Steve Joe's talking there, and Cassidy, who's part of the organising committees, speaking there, and they're talking about health to 18 to 30ish year old people, and it's so awesome to see a platform now that brings together thought-provoking things, and like tonight is talking about health to young people and about how important it is to think about your health now and what it means in the future. So that was why Ryla was so awesome. I grew so much. So yeah, if you're ever invited to do Ryla, get on board it. I'd say it'd be the same thing for Spirit of Adventure or Outward Bound. I'd love to do Outward Bound one day. So yeah, the Stag Roar is about improving lives, and I've looked back at who we've had on board, and probably the episodes fit into 3 categories: business, health, and adventure. And a lot of the guests covered all of those, and there are sort of 3 things that are really important to me. We're finally ticking off the adventure part. We're going, moving to Australia soon. In Australia, we hope to go to Bali a lot. Hopefully, Alex can organise, a period of time to go to Bali and do her yoga certificate. At the end, we hope to do a trip to Europe and explore there. Why we haven't decided to move to Ireland or England like we said we would was when I investigated it 2 years ago, there was sort of somewhere for me to work there. Obviously, we didn't have a baby. And with the goings on in the world, things like Syria, things like Brexit, second-hand accounts are telling me that the British Army is short of money and short of troops. So despite being in a war with Syria and being worried about Russia, the army in itself is actually underfunded and understaffed, and so they're not really able to do missions, which has got the government anxious, I guess, got the country anxious, I guess. Their housing market's through the roof, and like looking at rentals for the likes of Dublin, it was sort of €1,000 a week, and on one income that was going to be challenging. And yeah, when the company that I thought I was going to be able to get work with pretty much sort of said to me, come to the country and let us know how you get on. So it wasn't going to be very viable anymore to go and live there, which I'm sure we could have made it work, but when you have a baby, your priorities change, I guess. So massive opportunity came up in Australia to live in Byron Bay, which is where Alex has always wanted to live. She wants to live by the beach. We're going to be literally over the road from the beach. So pretty exciting opportunity. But yeah, business, health, and adventure. So we started off with Liam McElwee, and that's where I've sort of been delving into the business world, sort of, with Prove It and ketosis and ketones, exogenous ketones. And Liam, somebody I met through Prove It. We went to a bit of a mastermind in the Gold Coast last year in April. Really awesome dude. He's worked in CrossFit, he's worked in swimming, he's working in Prove It at the moment. He's got some awesome ideas about what he wants to do with his life. Again, what he wants to do to support his family, spend more time with his son. And yeah, we're 2 people that align. I think we're both quite honest about it. We are upfront, and we just want to help people to get better. And we both see the amazing value and benefit in ketosis and having exogenous ketones on hand, and hopefully sharing that with more people. It was the same for Thomas Nabbs, the water boy. He's doing an amazing job of creating a social enterprise that is helping so many people in the Waikato. And, all these people, they tap into that ethos of mine of improving people's lives. Thomas Nabbs is really quintessential of that. Like the water boy, some of the videos they make actually bring tears to my eyes to see young kids who would have been written off get so many opportunities, and just it's so cool to see those people grow, and just the amazing effect being involved with sport and having some people believe in them does for them. We went to Luke Taylor. Of course, Luke covered all bases. Luke has a business. His business is in health, and he's a bit of an adventure junkie. And I was so stoked that he went and competed at the World Championships for triathlon. We hoped to get him back on. I was supposed to interview him on Monday, but as I said, we didn't have the best night on Sunday, so we've had to rain check that. Hopefully, before I go to Australia, we can catch up with Luke, hear his story about the World Champs, and hear his story about completing an Ironman. We had Ben Logan. That was awesome. Ben is pretty much New Zealand's version of Dan Doty, and I love what Ben's doing. He's getting men in touch with who they are and using the outdoors as a medium to do that. Mitch Graham, Tony Dodds, Eddie Dawkins, we had a few sporting stars on there. It's awesome to know so many people. Met Mitch through Seed as well. Tim Doyle, again, he's an accountant, he's into Bitcoin, he's into adventure, he's been a dive instructor in Thailand. Cliff Harvey and Keegan Smith. We talked to Dom Batiste about psychology. Again, I love psychology. That's Dom's who I've done some psychotherapy with. Grant Schofield. We had Sam Farrell, Michael Lovegrove and Alex McCall, two entrepreneurs. Dan Thompson, entrepreneur. Hart Green, entrepreneur in the health sector. He's travelled around the world. Alicia Brown with her awesome reusable bags. I saw she's pushing on ahead with that and having awesome success. Ryan Muncie and Mike Mancini, both working in the health sector and helping people out. One of my favourite episodes, and I really love all of them, but was connecting with Yosefa Tuiaso. He is a powerful, powerful human, and you class him as a gentle giant. He goes by the spirit animal of a bear, just like my spirit animal is a stag, and he is a cuddly bear. He's not. There's not like the Joe Rogan and Cameron Hanes bear that'll rip your head off. He could, but he's also got such a massive heart, and again, he's somebody that's out there empowering the young people through sport, and it's such an awesome person to know, an awesome person to have shared with you. And I hope for all those people, and I know plenty of people have listened to that episode, I hope you got heaps out of it as well. And if you haven't listened to that episode, go back and touch in with that episode with Yosefa, because it's super awesome. Paddy McInnes obviously just showed what perseverance and playing the long game can do. Starting rowing competitively late, getting turned down, but keeping at it and knowing that the hard work would pay off, and not quite getting to the Olympics, but the World Championships is awesome. Of course, I talked to my beautiful partner, Alex, and the thing that I love about her story is that she embodies that why. So many of my patients just take medications willy-nilly, and it drives me crazy. But Alex looked at, she doesn't have a medical background, but she looked at it so simply: why do I have endometriosis? What can I do about it? And why can't I go back to the time when I didn't have this condition? And she's done that. And that's why I always endorse to anybody that listens Dr. Steve, because that's what he does. He goes back to why. Why is your body out of balance? Why is your body not functioning properly anymore? It's the same reason I endorse Ben Warren, and why I was so stoked to have him on, because that's what he's about. And I think that's also what Pete Evans was getting at in our podcast. He basically was saying, don't be happy with the norm. And it's super cool to see the article this week that, saying that, hey, Pete Evans was right about low carbohydrate. Who knows what else he's going to be right about? Same with Keegan, people might not keep him. He openly accepts that some of the things he says might roll people up the wrong way. But you know what? He's probably right. He's looked at a lot of things. And I think having those people in my life and connecting with those people has given me the confidence, especially in practice, to sit there and say to pretty much any diabetic, this is what you can do. You can turn your life around. This doesn't have to be your future. It's also now given me the confidence to communicate to patients that have probably normal cholesterol, no family history of heart conditions, family history of high cholesterol but without heart conditions, who are otherwise healthy, to ask their GP, why am I on this? Giving them the tools to look deeper into their blood work, to look deeper into their risk factors and really determine, do I need to take this medication which has sketchy proof that it does anything anyway, but whether or not that even applies to me in this category for the rest of my life, or can I have an improved quality of life and live my life with power? That talking to those sorts of people has given me the confidence to have those discussions with people. It's what I loved about Adam Kavanagh and Kai as well. They both, didn't let their condition or state and time define them. They found ways to break down barriers. Especially Kai, it was awesome to hear, the amount of times that people told her that she couldn't do something, and then, like for example, you're too old to be a stunt performer. You're not a gymnast. You're not a fighter. So what are you doing? And then from there go on to be the best stunt woman in the world. And that's even without even considering that she broke her back when she was 19. Like, that's powerful. Same with Adam. Hey mate, you've got thyroid disease. You can either try this medication, it might get rid of it, or you can have surgery and be on medication. Or you can have radiation and be on medication. And he didn't accept that, and he found that missing link between thyroid and gluten, and we heard it from Ben Warren as well, that's a thing, and getting rid of gluten works. And he's found the paleo diet to improve his health so much. Talman Madsen, he's awesome. Those photos that he makes are just mind blowing. It was so cool to be able to get a copy of his book out to somebody. For those that were tuning into my Instagram, it was really cool to share that with somebody. He's such a legend. Signed it and everything. And it was cool to hear about, the turtles that come to New Zealand. I've seen some more photos of sea turtles coming to New Zealand, and it's cool to share that, hey, we're so lucky in New Zealand to have all these turtles, spearfishing, being out in the mountains, being out on an adventure, and just getting after something that he's passionate about. 3 years he went from selling insurance to, selling mortgages to having a photography book and making that something that's full time. Like, how cool is that? Like, if it doesn't motivate you to maybe give that thing a go, then I don't know what would. But yeah, that's cool. And another favorite episode was the Modern Huntsman guys. I've got that book and it's so beautiful, and I was stoked to see some people chucked in an order for it as well, because hunting is super, super. I can't even describe it really. It's just so primal and so amazing. As I said, those that are watching on YouTube, those antlers, by the way, no deer were harmed in the harvesting of those antlers. They're from my mate Daniel, his dad's farm, which, as you know, is a passion of mine, deer farming. And they're just the hard antler off a couple of spikers that, you've got to chop those off, or else they'll stab each other and kill each other. And Daniel's dad doesn't do velvet, so he chopped those off in hard antler. But yeah, I actually haven't got any deer in the wild. I've seen some deer in the wild. The last time I went up to Kaimais, I managed to see a hind. The couple of times I've been into Te Tapui, I've been there 3 times. Twice I've seen some fallow deer in there, spooked them. And down in Wanaka, or in Hawaii, sorry, we've seen some deer there and some tahr there. But I haven't harvested anything there. And many times, like if you've been on my blog and read about me and my mate Daniel's raw hunt up the Blue River, we didn't see a thing. And the amount of times I've been in the Kaimais and not seen a thing is, yeah, the majority of my hunting stories. So most of it I put down to inconsistency, and I know that. Not knowing enough about an area yet, like that fallow block. I think I was getting close to being successful there. Probably also with the Kaimais, I'd been up to that place twice now and had a good look around there. I'd started to master a spot originally when I got to the Waikato and the Kaimais, but the last time I went up there was Easter weekend one year, and shots being fired above and below you is pretty nerve-wracking, and the amount of traffic and things that are around that area, and it's pretty close to where that guy was shot this year, which is a real shame. So yeah, I just didn't feel comfortable going back there. But yeah, hunting is a challenge, and anybody that thinks it's just go out there and kill something, it's got another thing coming. It's the biggest sort of challenge and test that you can do, and then on top of that, there's the physicality of it. Like around Hawea, we climbed 1,100 meters altitude just to get to our camp. That was with full packs, 30 kg packs on our back. We walked for 8 hours. In the Blue River, we walked out for 8 hours. In the Kaimais, I have to go up 400 meters altitude, stuck in things like supplejack, which is a vine. You're in stiff cliff country. Yeah, it's hard yakka. You're covered in sweat. You're often at times low on water, low on food, and it's one of those things where the level of suffering at the time sucks, but at the end is so rewarding and makes you feel so good about yourself, and means that you can attack other things with a bit more frivolity. And when you're going through a hard time, you know that getting through it at the end, there's going to be a great outcome. You also know that even if you're not successful in your goal, and that might be hunting to get an animal for the freezer to feed your family and feed your friends, and maybe have a beautiful set of antlers or a beautiful skin for your room, but the lessons that you're learning from doing that are only going to make you better, and it really touches you in on that long game and what it is what's the key outcome, and what are the lessons that I'm learning from this experience, and how can I enjoy this experience? How can I live in the now? How can I, be more resilient? And I think I've found that doing hard things has been extremely helpful with Billy. Especially these last few weeks where she's had colic, and it's super hard to watch your daughter screaming in pain. Like I said, who would have known that farting and burping could be so painful? But when you can't settle her, and she cries, and when Alex is upset and Alex is struggling to try and be steady, you're sleep deprived to try and be steady and try to be there and try look after these two amazing people in your life, knowing that it's going to get easier, knowing that there is so much goodness out of this, and there is these amazing times. I think it allows me to stay steady within that. It allows me to get up and go to work, and despite it being so hard to leave them at home, knowing that in the end it's all going to be worth it. I think doing hard things teaches you that. It means that you don't flake out on stuff. It means that you give stuff a go, because even though it might put you out for a little while, the upside of it is so worth it. And yeah, that's what I really love about hunting is the fact that it's so hard is so good. the last episode we did with Eddie Rakanui, as I said, was close to my heart. That concussion last year really scared me. To try and stand up and not have control of your body and just fall over and know that you've damaged your brain was pretty terrifying. To then not be able to remember who I played last week, to get to the sideline and sit down and not remember what I had for dinner last night when I had made it, and it was delicious and amazing. It was this real awesome keto cheddar platter. Was terrifying. Then to go in and try and shower and try get dressed and have to really, really think hard about where I move my body, to reading text messages and not being able to make sense of them, to not be able to operate my phone, to we went home and we were coming up to Auckland, and to say to Alex 3 times over, I need my toilet bag when I had already got it the first time. It was really, really scary. I was quite worried. And having that knowledge that, one, I'd taken ketones beforehand, and two, to have that on hand and knock it back straight away and feel the effects come over me. I want everybody out there that plays a contact sport or high velocity sport to know that. To know that if you get a head trauma, there is a thing that may just save your brain. It may just save you from depression, anxiety, low energy, from being off work for weeks, from not being able to sleep, from not being able to read, from not being able to do your job, from not being able to return to sport. And it was so good to share that message. And hey, it doesn't need to be exogenous ketones. It can be like Eddie and be the ketogenic diet. But in a time when you do have that head trauma, it was so invaluable. And two of my customers for Prove It are people that struggle with head injuries. I think on the Waikato page, you'll have to scroll way down, but I interviewed Shelley, and she talked about how much ketones has given her freedom in her life. And my other customer, he was an ex-kickboxer, and within a week he said his clarity was back. And then at the end of the month, what was really awesome is he sent me a text message and he was like, "Wow, I've got my abs back." So that was a cool side effect of getting better clarity and using fat for fuel, was that he was burning off that spare tire and he had his abs back, which I'm sure is a guy in his 40s who's been super fit and super active all his life, to get back to having abs again just would have been pretty cool. And it was such a cool message to receive. I touched on that I do intermittent fasting on the weekends, and that's to also support my brain after that concussion. What we spoke about with Karen, and what I've got coming out in an article with the My Vision magazine, and I'll be putting on my blog, is around how fasting boosts brain drive neurotrophic factor. And that's why now with the product with Prove It, the Keto Reboot, I'm going to be doing a 60-hour fast every month, because I want to protect my brain. You see all these scary statistics about people that have played NFL in the States, and something that Joe Rogan always brings up is something like 102 of the 110 brains that they examined all had CTE. That's not something I want to. I've probably got. I've had a number of concussions, but not something I want to affect my life. I don't want to have Parkinson's when I'm older. So I want to do as much as I can now to protect my brain. I also don't want to get type 2 diabetes. It's in my family. I don't want that to be me. So I'm going to be doing two things with fasting. I'm going to be improving my insulin sensitivity and giving my brain fertilizer, ketones, and brain-derived neurotrophic factor. I'm also going to be boosting my immune system, so hopefully I don't get sick, so hopefully I can be there for Billy and Alex and be able to support them all the time and not be run down, because man, flu's a real thing. I especially felt that after my surgery. I got hit with the flu and I was completely not for six. Yeah, that was before I was doing keto, and yeah, thank goodness, touch wood, I haven't been sick like that since. But yeah, I've written down a couple more notes here, and the dad life, which I think I've talked about, my daily routine, which I talked about there, thanks to Joseph's question. Basically, what's left is, if you haven't checked me out on the channels, I'd love to hear from you, whether that's on Waikato on Facebook, whether that's on Instagram at either Stag Ryan, which is more sort of dad lifey stuff and adventure stuff, or on Stag Vision, which is more about optometry and health, and of course our podcast guests. We always do a post on Stag Vision about our podcast guests. Yeah, so you can contact me there. If you're on Twitter, you'll see I'm pretty active there again, at Stag Ryan there. Most of my tweets are about type 2 diabetes, about farming, or about the stuff that Dave Feldman and Ivor Cummins are doing with cholesterol, and so it's all that sort of low carb, heart health, Jason Fung, Verda Health, Ivor Cummins, Dave Feldman, Gary Fickey, Tim Noakes. Yeah, that's what you can expect from my Twitter. So, so hit me up on there as well. Check out my blog. I'm going to be doing another post up there shortly. I also send my blogs to the Seed page. Check them out; they're super awesome. I'll have a link for Seed on there. And yeah, Snapchat's at Stag Ryan as well. Sometimes posting on there. It's hard to remember now with Instagram stories. Of course, the thing that we always ask our guests is something to leave us with. And I know I've probably been rambling, and well done if you've got this far. But the thing that I've got out of my guests and readings and experiences so far are 3 points. One of those is be curious, find out more. If you've got an itch, scratch it. Find out what you don't know. Know that you don't know. And even when you begin to read stuff, know that you don't know. There's more to read. This health stuff is forever ending. Strength and conditioning and training is forever ending. Never ending. And of course now family and learning about babies and raising children and being a good partner for two amazing girls is never ending. My second point is one that's from Simon Sinek. Start with why. And as I said, my why is improving people's lives. And that's how I try and manifest everything I do, whether that's the podcast, whether that's as an optometrist, whether that's being a good dad, whether that's being a good partner to Alex, whether that's being a good son, good brother, good, I guess you call it brother-in-law or son-in-law, but we're not married yet. But yeah, being a good person to the family, being a good person in society. Start with why. And mine's improving people's lives. And of course, the thing that kind of makes the podcast quintessential is ask better questions. Always ask questions of people, because I've been asking questions of people that I never thought I'd ever connect with, like Pete Evans. like Dave Feldman that we've got coming up. And by asking questions, I've begun to learn so much. So I also throw that back to you. If you've got any questions of me or any questions of my guests, feel free to ask questions, because the worst thing that can happen is they ignore you. The worst thing that can happen is, they ignore you, you don't hear anything. But if you don't ask, then you'll never know. Primary school, I think, used to say no stupid questions, but I hope that's still the case, because whenever someone's in my room, I always encourage them to ask questions, and I try and empower people that say to me, when I ask them why do they take something or why do they do something, I encourage them that's the question they need to be asking of themselves or of the person that's dictating their lives. Ask better questions. And that's probably enough for rambling. 105. I hope you enjoyed getting in touch with me and hearing my thoughts at this point in time. It's cool to timestamp the podcast at episode 35 with some ramblings and thoughts from me. Of course, the podcast is brought to you by Waiketo. It's waiketo0.proveitnow.com if you're after exogenous ketones, and the Facebook page where all these podcasts go, and where not all, but heaps of resources from many of our guests go, is WAIKET0. Y, of course, means water. Keto, in the case of exogenous ketones, is ketones in water. That's where the name comes from. And of course, I was in the Waiketo. Waiketo on Facebook. Check us out. Or if you're after exogenous ketones, waiketo0.proveitnow.com. If you're in New Zealand, you might want to contact me, because technically it's not open, but we can get you hooked up with ketones. Cheers. Have an awesome time. Thanks very much for listening. Bye-bye.